to show you something. This is a home movie. Hot summer, 1960. In the western rolling foothills of Appalachia in a place they call the Steel Valley. It's little Susie. And the movie shot by her Aunt Mary. There she is. Go up to the ball now, Susie. Go on. Lisa goes, oh! Oh! Look at that! That jerk! That brute! That cad! That's me. You know, it pains me each time I see that ghost. I wonder if Aunt Mary knew that on that hot summer day when she was holding that camera. Well now, nearly 60 years later, and a lot of water has gone downriver. And I'm happy to say that my sister is now my best friend. She's been very, very good to me. You know, far better to me than I deserve. You know, there's a lot to be said for having people in your life who really love you and forgive you and are really there for you. People of the present and people of the past. They're all right here, right now. You see, we're not separated by time, but linked by it. What is time? Along the river of ghosts. 1941. A small boy runs alongside the muddy, moaning, honing river. The boy's running barefoot through the woods. No shoes in the summer months. His mother, an Italian widow, tries to save money any way she can. Hey, Manaya! Why, without shoes in the summer? The boy has feathers stuck in a bandana around his head. He's carrying a stick, pretends it's a bow. He's playing Indian Scout, just like he's seen in the movies. In fact, he plays wild Indian so much that the folks in all the hills around here, they call him Squanto. Yeah, Squanto. After the famous Native American hunter who guided the pilgrims to their first Thanksgiving. Young Squanto stops beside a tree along the river, and then he senses something. Something strange. And he looks down, and he sees it. It's just lying there right on the ground. It's an ancient flint arrowhead, shot by a Native American hunter who hunted and canoed right here long, long ago. Now that arrowhead, it could be from the ancient mound builders, a civilization so long gone that no one even knows their real names. Or it could be from a warrior of the Erie tribe, or Huron, or Chippewa, or most recently the Massasauga Delaware. All of those great nations once canoed and hunted along here. Young Squanto picks that treasure up, brings it home, puts it in a cigar box. There's an old man in Youngstown with a box of old arrowheads. He holds them very dear, found through his lifetime along these riverbeds, from tribes who once lived here and who laughed and loved the same as you and me, by the rivers that meet a river that flows to the sea. world of dust, where once great mounds of ore were tamed into mold and steel. There's nothing now but rust and poison in the mud for centuries. In the rivers that need a river that flows to the sea. One time, years and years later, Squanto and his son, they go looking for an ancient burial mound. It takes them hours to find. You see, there's very few left. The vast majority have been plowed under. But they find it on a ridge, overlooking the river, overgrown, neglected. Coming back down, they meet a woman who's lived just down the road her whole life, and she doesn't even know that mound is there. People, families, nations, whole civilizations, they rise and fall and come and go. The Massasauga, Delaware, are long, long gone from here. Driven out, pushed out, murdered out. In their place comes a flood of immigrants, aliens, who felled the ancient canopy of forests and built rolling farms and little towns and filled them with lily-white, blue-eyed Anglo-Saxons, people of the word. Now, meet Archie. He's the son of a master carpenter. His father, Matthew, had arrived in America when just a baby, brought over from Germany by his mother, a widow. Now, Matthew is kind of an American success story. He becomes a master carpenter and the owner of a fine mustache. Seeking work in the industrial boom of steel, he moves his family to this valley in Ohio, where he passes his skills on to his son, the restless, red-haired Archie. Now meet Teresa. She is the daughter of a blacksmith, Frank Schmidt. Teresa and her sisters are brought up to be cultured, refined ladies of their day. Teresa is an artist. She paints on china and canvas. Her artwork is still on display. She also plays and teaches piano and the organ. She plays classical works, some Tin Pan Alley songs, but mostly church hymns. She's very religious. She's practical and sews clothes. She tends a garden. She cans the fruits and vegetables she grows. In the future, she'll keep the family fed that way through lean times. Now it's a fitting match. On paper, Teresa and Archie, both of the same faith, same ethnic background, the daughter of a blacksmith, the son of a carpenter. By now, Archie, though a master plumber, is intent on making cedar wood canoes. The story goes that's his first and only love, canoes. Just one of the things taken from the Native Americans who once lived here. 1913. Eccentric Archie marries level-headed Teresa. At the wedding, all the young people have a great time. Teresa and her girlfriends put on the men's coats and hats and smoke cigars. Not to be outdone, the men put on the women's hats and coats. Transgressing gender roles in 1913. What a laugh! It's a happy day down by the river. Archie wrestles his new bride. He's laughing! But Teresa's not amused. No, sir, she's not amused at all. A harbinger of their future. For no sooner are they married than Archie starts taking his canoes down to the river and disappearing for a day, 2 days, 3 days, sometimes more. Teresa learns that Archie's lifelong dream is to go all the way. canoe down that river to the muddy Ohio and on to the mighty Mississippi and ride that great artery down through the heartland to the open arms of the sea. Now maybe he thinks it'll give him more free time to canoe, but Archie decides to invest everything they have in a small farm. And as is the way with good folks of their religion, the children start arriving like clockwork. I hear the spirits in the muddy waters. Listen close now. I hear them laugh and I hear them cry. I hear spirits in the muddy waters. Listen close now, I hear them laugh and I hear them cry. Into their open arms they pull me close, bring me home down along this old river goes. They all wait for me by the buckeye tree, all along that riverside. Sacred clay from the muddy bottom and sanctify my blocked ears and my blinded eyes. I said take some sacred clay from the muddy bottom and sanctify my blocked ears and my blinded eyes. Into your open arms, oh pull me close, bring me home down along that old river goes. Oh wait for me by the buckeye tree, down along that riverside. A flood of immigrants, newcomers, aliens, pouring into the valley. So many that by 1920, the foreign-born now outnumber the native-born by over 2 to 1. And many of the native, lily-white, blue-eyed, 100% Americans, they don't like it. So much so that in 1923, pouring into the valley from states all around come 20,000 members of the Ku Klux Klan, burning crosses in front of the churches and in the neighborhoods, the ghettos of the newly arrived steel workers with their foreign ways, odd customs, broken English, false religions. 100% Americans, people of the word, burning crosses, having torch parades, intimidation, just to let these aliens know who's really in charge. But these newcomers, they fight back. And throughout the valley, 10 days of rioting and mayhem erupt. There are beatings, jumpings, stabbings, drive-bys, shootouts, burning buildings, broken windows, tires set on fire, attacks at broken blasts spread on the roads. Some Klansmen pose as state police. They set up roadblocks all around, dragging people with foreign-sounding names from their cars. Many are hospitalized. Then a group of Irish guys come down from Chicago. They got a plan and a box of dynamite. They discover the secret headquarters of the Klan, and they break in. They blow up the safe inside to get the list of the names of all the members of the Ku Klux Klan, and then they publish that list in their newspaper. Meanwhile, an unarmed black man is shot dead by the police, who otherwise stand by and do nothing. Now, during all this, Archie's out on his small farm, but he's been active. He's been on a committee trying to set up his kind of church at a little crossroads just outside town. In response, Archie and the committee have received all kind of threats. The Klan don't want any more of those kind of churches polluting their 100% neighborhoods. And then late one night, long after the children have said their prayers, Archie and Teresa are awakened. Sounds of animals, restless and disturbed, coming from the barn. Something's afoot. Archie goes to the window. He looks out. He sees a faint, flickering glow casting shadows across the farmyard. Shadows of men. Men in robes. He tells Teresa to stay in the house with the children. He goes downstairs to the kitchen. Then his little daughter, the second daughter, the tomboy, Mary, she comes into the room. She's rubbing her eyes and sees her father loading his shotgun. Well, what's happening, Dad? Shh. Stay in the house with your mother. And Archie steps alone into that darkness. He slowly crosses the farmyard. From around the back of the barn, he can hear laughing and the sound of one of his canoes being busted up to make kindling. He slides slowly along the side of the barn, levels his shotgun, and jumps out. Story goes, there's a man in town walking around with a real bad limp afterwards. But nothing is said to his face. No charges are ever filed. But it was another 35 years before that 100% American town allowed that kind of church to be built. Archie and the farm? Well, it seems that a lot of lily white businesses wouldn't deal with them afterwards. And Archie ends up losing the place. In fact, with Archie in charge, the family pretty much lose everything. Now, Teresa blames Archie and his canoes for their grief. She writes in a letter, "No, I won't try to commit suicide as your father does by going on these freakish canoe trips. It would be better he'd go to a doctor if he counts himself sane." Oh yeah, there was a chip loose in his head. Today we would probably say he was somewhere along the spectrum. Off and up and disappearing. Taking one of his canoes downriver. And when he is at home, he's constantly building things. Cabinets, furniture, rocking chairs, and of course, canoes. The years go by. The river flows on. And Archie starts losing his hearing and gets less and less plumbing work. These are the years when the weight begins to fall on Mary, the second daughter, the tomboy. Inventive, practical, good with her eyes and hands. Now, Mary is so good at all things mechanical that she becomes an engineer. In fact, she is the only woman engineer in the history of the firm where she works. Now, the thing is, her middle name is Frances, in honor of her mother's father, Frank, the blacksmith. And she has always signed her name and gotten paid as M. Frances. With her name the same as a man, job same as a man, paid same as a man. And what she earns goes to the family. Unlike Archie, she is ever at her mother's side. Now, when her little baby sister Carol grows up and marries Squanto, Mary instantly becomes the favorite aunt. Since they all live in the same house, she is the boy's second mother. Always into gadgets, Mary gets a camera and she shoots all these home movies. She shows the boy how to draw trees and tractors, barns, boats, canoes. He adores her, clings to her. She gives the best hugs in the world. She encourages him, says he's so good he could be an artist someday. She spends hours with him, letting him hammer nails and drill holes in a 2x4 just for fun. She shows him how to work a saw by putting her knee on the board to hold it steady. He calls her Mamie, Aunt Mamie. Mamie laughs a lot, smiles a lot, smokes a lot. One time, she gets a reel-to-reel tape recorder and she records her nephew saying nursery rhymes. Hearing your own voice back? That's a real miracle, magic. Fun, laughter, love, Aunt Mamie. And so the boy grows up along the river with his mom and dad, Grandma Teresa, Granddad Archie, and Aunt Mamie. As you can see, he's all natural. Totally uninhibited, a free spirit, a beatnik, like Walt Whitman or Adam in the Garden. A left-handed boy in a right-handed world. Now, his grandma has a big organ in the dining room. The organ is a heavy, solid wooden thing with 2 banks of keys, a row of buttons to change the sounds, and even a bank of foot pedals. Mary got it for her mother. His grandma sets him up on the high bench and tries to show him the proper fingering for scales. But the kid, he just wants to make weird, scary ghost sounds. The weirder the sounds, the more the boy laughs and laughs. Then he discovers the reverb button. It's loads of fun making stuff up. Zat Mamie gives him a cowbell. This bell. A bell left over from when the family had the farm. The kid marches around the house banging on the bell, his mother screaming, "Take that outside! You're doing it on purpose!" Squanto's time in the army was spent working in an office. So when he gets out of the army and starts working for the big steel company, he finds himself not on the mill floor wrestling with the poison smoke and the toxic fumes and the molten ash. No, he's up in the office, a junior clerk in a suit and tie. He made it up to the bottom rung. That's right, up to the bottom rung. The highest any wop working in that steel mill had ever been before. Of course, they didn't know he was a wop because the family had changed their name to sound 100% American. One day, the boss shows Squanto how to file the employment records. And the boss says, "Now, these workers listed here, they've been here a long time, so they're due for promotions. But these boys here with the little black pencil marks beside their names, they don't ever get promoted." Squanto asks, "Why not?" And the boss says, "Well, they're the niggers. They don't get promotions." The boss was the boss. And that's just the way it was. With that new job in the office, Carol and Squanto can finally get their own place. One night, soon after moving into their new house, Carol is sitting down on their sofa. Her eldest, now a rambunctious little boy, lies asleep, exhausted after being marched around by his grandfather Archie. His head is lying on his mom's lap. Archie, now a lot older and mostly deaf, had come by earlier to visit. But he's real excited about the latest canoe he's just finished. It's a nice one, extra special. At the end of the evening, he says, "I'm going downriver." And his daughter says, "Oh, okay, Dad." And then the old man softly touches his grandson's forehead and is gone. Archie just up and left and took that canoe, and he was gone 2 days, 3, 4, 5. The family didn't think anything of it. But well over a week later, Betty, the oldest daughter, she comes into the room and she is as white as a sheet. Teresa and Mary want to know what's going on. And all Betty can say is, "Dad's chair. Dad's chair." It's rocking. So? It's rocking all by itself. What? So Mary gets up. She goes into her father's room. She sees the rocking chair, this chair. A chair that Archie built in 1913, the year that he was married. But it's sitting there motionless. Coming back into the room and lighting a cigarette, Mary says, "Well, it's not rocking now, Betty. You must be seeing things." Meanwhile, at the very same time, over at the new house, Carol is putting her little boy to bed. And reaching for the bedroom door at the top of the stairs, she suddenly stops and stands frozen. It makes no sense, but she whispers into the darkness, "Dad? Dad? Dad?" And then it's gone. Later that night, Squatter gets home and she mentions the encounter to him, and he just laughs. Tells her she needs to get more sleep. The evening of the next day, the family get word that some of the wreckage of Archie's canoe was found on the banks of the Ohio River, near where a huge dam is being built, not far from the Mississippi. And 3 days later, they drag his body from the muddy water. After the funeral, Teresa writes, "I never thought his end was so near. I wonder if he did. I wonder what came to his mind when he saw his doom right there. God, home, or sorrow. I could never see him die in bed, as water and canoe was his first and only love. God, home, or sorrow." With Archie gone, it's Mary now that's taking care of Teresa. But she's earning good money as an engineer. Now Mary's different. She's never had boyfriends. She likes machinery and gadgets and building and fixing things. But despite Mary's care, something is going wrong with her mother. Always a diabetic, Teresa's body is beginning to break down. The arteries are hardening in her legs, and she's having real trouble walking. As these years go by, the strain on Mary becomes unbearable. And she starts having strange ideas about people being after her, finding things out about her. Awful things, cruel things, sinful things, things you go to hell for. And then, one day, her paychecks made out to M. Francis are suddenly cut in half. She wants to know why. Well, it turns out that the engineering firm where she's worked had always assumed that M. Francis, one of their top engineers, was a man. But a new woman working in accounts that Mary had befriended revealed that the paychecks to M. Francis were in fact going to a woman. Well, don't you know women are not paid the same as men? Mechanical engineer or not. So bam! Wages cut. Couldn't do anything about it. Rules were rules. And that's just the way it was. 1967. Mary breaks down. She'd been carrying that burden for years, and she could not carry it any longer. Being the nearest family, Carol and Squanto arranged to put her in a place called Woodside, a special hospital where the doctors assured them Mary would get the treatment she needs. And meanwhile, Teresa comes to live with Carol, Squanto, and the kids. But she can't walk anymore. And she's in constant pain. A lot of pain. And then comes the day. The boy watches his dad carry his grandma to the family station wagon, and Teresa laughing through all that pain as she's carried along. At the hospital, they make a desperate last-ditch effort by amputating her legs. But it proves too much for the old woman, and Teresa slips away. The boy cries and cries. And his mom says, hey, it's okay. She was in so much pain. It's good that God brought her home. After they get back from the cemetery, the boy gets down on his knees by the little table in the basement with his crayons, and he swears, Grandma, I promise you I will be an artist someday, just like you. Several months later, Mary returns home to them. Everyone is happy. The boy's overjoyed. He rushes to greet her, wrap his arms around her. Time for a big hug. But her arms hang limply at her side. She doesn't recognize him. The old laughing, joyful Aunt Mimi is gone. And in her place is a new Mary. Her body slumped in a chair, her voice a numb monotone, chain smoking, cigarettes and ashtrays left to burn, her eyes distant, as if her real self is somewhere far away, and in its place is a ghost. For the rest of her life, the old Mary never really returns. And it was only years later that he learns the truth of what happened to her. How she was treated for her condition. Over and over and over again. Shocking her mind out of its disease. Depression, paranoia, homosexuality. Disease was disease. And doctors were doctors. And that's just the way that it was. that's just the way that it was. Oh, how can the world be so unfair when you reach out for someone and no one is there? Made to feel guilt and suffer and shame, hiding love that you cannot name. You were torn apart, it was all just too much. Your aching heart longed for someone to touch. Oh, give me a home where no one need hide. You can be who you are and stand up with pride. Forget your sorrow, your pain, and your scars, and I would love you just as you are, with every drop of blood that flows through me, from the river of ghosts that goes to the sea. Let's go back upriver a bit, to September 1964, the first day of first grade. He's got his brand new school uniform on, shiny black shoes, black trousers, white shirt, and the St. Dominic's school tie. His teacher is a nun, Sister Mark. Black and white habit, huge wooden rosary beads clatter at her hip. She is a little woman, but to her class of 6-year-olds, she is a giant. Sister Mark hands out laminated name cards. The cards have each kid's first name neatly printed on it, the first assignment. Everyone, I want you to take out a pencil and look carefully at your name card. Then I want you to copy out your names exactly as you see it on a piece of lined paper. Now, you all do know your names, don't you, boys and girls? Your first name, the name you were baptized with. And when you are finished, put your pencil down and put your hand up in the air like this. All right? You may begin. Day one, the boy is thrilled. This is gonna be easy. After all, he's an artist, a beatnik. Aunt Mary has taught him how to draw tractors and boats and barns and trees and canoes. He's thinking, Mom and Dad are gonna be so proud of me. He puts his head down and begins, ever so carefully, ever so neatly. R. The first letter, his favorite letter. Why, it's the best letter ever. Then O, G, E, R. Ah, look at that! The first kid done, and it's perfect! Ah! The calligraphy's first rate. The R's are especially stunning. He's so proud. Pencil slapped down, hand shoots up into the air. Sister Mark comes over, she looks at the boy, then at his printed name, then back at the boy, and she says, "Come with me." There's a strange tone in her voice, a tone he's never heard before. She brings him up to the front of the class, and she says, "Everyone, this boy has finished. Now I want you all to look at what he's written here, boys and girls." The kid looks out at his classmates. boys and girls he's never even met before. And they all start laughing. And Sister Mark says, yes, that's right. You all see what this boy has done here. The kid's confused. As far as he's concerned, he's just printed his name perfectly, and now they're all laughing at him? Look at it, says Sister Mark. What? I said, look at it. I am. Well, do you not see? See what? Are you really that stupid? Are you really that stupid? I'm not stupid. Oh, yes, you are stupid. Don't contradict me. Look, you have printed your name backwards. And she shoves the paper into the boy's face and he lurches back. In an instant, a wooden board appears in the woman's hand, a crudely crafted thing like a plate with a handle. At the front of the class, she roars, put your hands on the edge of my desk and stand still. Don't you dare move until I say you move. And she starts striking the boy again and again and again, and the class is not laughing anymore. They're looking on in horror. She shouts, this is the paddle, everyone. And it's on my desk every day, waiting for any boy or girl here who disobeys me or who insists on being stupid like this stupid child here. Now go sit down. The kid hobbles back to his seat, whimpering, fighting hard to hold back the tears on the very first day of school. At supper that night, his folks, naturally, they want to know how the first day went. And the kid's ashamed. Says, I got hit by the nun. And the automatic response is, well, what did you do wrong? I don't know what I did wrong. Well, you must have done something wrong for the nun to hit you. I don't know, Mom. Well, maybe you weren't paying attention. I was paying attention. Look, you are a big boy now, a student. You have to always obey the nun. Oh yeah, here's the thing. Nuns are married to Christ. And the brides of Christ can do no wrong. Nuns were nuns. And that's just the way it was. In that first year, almost daily beatings, taunts, derision. Branded as the scapegoat by Sister Mark, he can't even make any friends. The kids are all afraid to even be seen talking to him. And day after day, he trudges on, deeper and deeper into a dark pit. After a month, he starts stuttering. 2 months in, he can't even put a sentence together. Grandma and Aunt Mary start to wonder what's going on. Mamie's big hugs don't help. 3 months in, he develops this strange skin condition all around his mouth with dry, brittle, cracking lips, the cracks and scabs, cracking and frequently bleeding. To try to soothe the pain, the boy takes to licking his lips, but this only makes it worse and worse. So his mom takes him to the doctor. And the doctor prescribes a special cream the boy is to rub on his lips throughout the day. And concerned, his parents come into the school and they all sit down with Sister Mark, and his mom explains they need her help to ensure that their son does not lick his lips. And if he does, he must put this special medicine on. And Sister Mark assures his fretting parents that she'll take a special interest in their boy. The next day, Sister Mark stands in front of his desk and just stops talking and starts staring. Just staring, glaring, waiting, making the kid sweat, daring him. And sure enough, He licks his lips and bam! She grabs him, pulls him to the front of the class. I told you not to, and you deliberately disobeyed me. She starts beating the kid around the head with the board. He tries to get away. Don't you dare move, you stupid brat! Don't you dare move! Your parents want you looked after? Oh, I'll look after you. She wheels the kid around, squeezes his face with all her might, and smears the cream all over, making his face start to bleed. The savagery not finished yet. She pulls a wastebasket forward. She twists the little boy's arm, shoves him into the basket. She goes, right here in the garbage is the only place for this retard! And for the rest of the day, that little boy is made to stand in the trash in front of his class with blood all over his face. That first year, that boy learned nothing. Nothing. Not how to read, not how to write, not how to add or subtract. In fact, he goes backwards. The once constantly clowning kid becomes quiet and withdrawn. He can barely even speak. He stutters so much. He's always frightened, nervous, can't look people in the eye. Now his folks think it's because he's so ashamed of his face. How it looks all torn up with the brittle and the cracked lips. The end of first grade finally arrives, and the folks get a letter from St. Dominic's School asking for a meeting. And the folks find themselves sitting down with Sister Mark. And she informs them that their son has effectively failed first grade. She says his progress is so poor that she considers him mentally retarded and recommends that he goes to a special institution where people like that can be looked after. Faced with this news, his mother is stunned into silence. But Squanto reacts differently. Kiss my ass, he says. What? You heard me. I said, kiss my ass. There was nothing wrong with our boy till he came here. I am his teacher. Not anymore. He's going to go to a public school from now on. We're leaving. And that was it. They were gone. That summer, his mom sets the boy down at a picnic table in the back garden every morning of every day. And armed with a pile of Dr. Seuss books, she teaches her son how to read. It's tough love. Stop squirming. Stop squirming. Now you gotta do this. You have to do this. You know how to do this. Sound out the words. Come on now. Sound out the words. Hop on the pop. One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish, green eggs and ham. The cat in the hat. And with his mother's persistence and gentle encouragement, he discovers, yeah, I can read. And the stutter goes away. And the lips clear up. And he starts laughing again. Love. Love. Love can heal. Believe it. Even now, Dr. Seuss always makes me smile. And Sister Mark, she went on teaching. The church was the church. And that's just the way it was. That same summer, his mother takes a magic marker and she draws a big street scene on a big white sheet. It's a backdrop for a stage. It's a picture of like a little house behind a picket fence. And then she gets a stepladder and she hangs it from the rafters in the garage. And then on the gravel floor, they mark out a little stage and line up chairs for the audience. And then he and his friends, they put on their first show. The show, well, it's really just him and his friends singing bits of songs they know. You know, like, she loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to hold your hand. Hello, Dolly. Ding dong, the witch is dead. And then they act out some scenes from The Wizard of Oz. And he argues with his best friend right on the stage over like, who is the Tin Man in this scenario? It's like a big deal to be the Tin Man, you know. He gets to carry the big axe. And the boy discovers more than anything else, it's loads of fun making stuff up. Oh yeah, making stuff up. Being an artist. That's where it's at. Who gave you courage when you felt afraid? Who picked you up when you fell down? Who brought you home and held you close? You ain't alone on this river of ghosts. Who came running when they heard you cry? Who wiped the tears from your weeping eyes? Who sat with you and held your hand and tried their best to understand? Who brought you home and held you close? You ain't alone on the river ghost.